Hello and welcome back to the third episode of The Other Day with your host, Daryk. I hope you are all doing well. I hope you are all hanging out, and I hope you had a great week. This is episode number 3, and we're doing some expanding this week and really figuring out some really cool new stuff to try on this episode. Going to be testing out a few new things and seeing what happens with it. So thank you for listening today. Thank you for living life and just thinking about things in your own way and thinking about things in your own world and what that means to you. But more importantly, we're going to dive right in, right off the top. It may be a shorter episode today, but we're going to talk about the things I've been thinking about the other day. So a little bit of a recap this past week to kind of give you some context of how I've been thinking about things lately. This past week at work was fairly light. Got a chance to actually look into some new project ideas and kind of get the ball rolling on a couple things that could be potential revenue earners at the company. So we'll see where that goes. It's exciting. It's an exciting time in my career and whatnot. So I'm really, really joyous to be involved with a lot of things at work today. But yeah, in the extracurricular hours, been working towards going on an elk hunt here in September. The second week in September, I will be going to southwestern Colorado. Hopefully I can come back and give you a story about what that looks like and what happened and maybe a recap. That would be really cool. But we're going to go, me and 2 friends, Tyler and Mason, are going to go to Colorado and endeavor ourselves on a new found passion of elk hunting, and try to do that with the old stick and string, the old bow, and over-the-counter tag. So didn't get drawn for anything, but we're just going to go see if we can harvest maybe a couple elk and see if we can bring home that meat and supply our friends and family with it and live off of it for the next year and see kind of how that goes. If that's something that, we kind of take a hold of and really enjoy, then we'll see where that starts. I mean, we're young age guys and early in our career, so that could potentially be something that would start a long-lasting tradition of our families getting together and going to do something in the mountains. Speaking of the mountains, I'm drinking a 24-ounce Coors Light right now, distilled and lagered, filtered, and packaged in the Rocky Mountains. I've actually seen that distillery. The place is really cool. The mountains are blue, so it's good to go. So here we go. We're rolling into what I've been thinking about. Let's start off the top a little bit. Okay, so a lot of us tend to follow dogs on social media. Dogs, cats, pets in general, right? One of my favorite pages, one of my favorite groups is a Facebook group on Facebook that is a Boykin Spaniel group. Now, a Boykin Spaniel is a smaller size spaniel. It's basically the difference between a Cocker Spaniel and a Springer Spaniel. If you know Springers to be a little bit bigger, they run a little bit more, they're used more in hunting. Cocker Spaniels can also be used in hunting, but they're quite a bit smaller, do not have the stamina that a Springer will. And so it's the in-between, if you will. It's about a 30 to 40 pound dog breed, and they have the long spaniel ears, they have the kind of the droopy spaniel eyes, and anyways, I just love them. I think that the spaniels, we've always had Cockers in my family, and we've had plenty of friends that have had Springers, and we love the Springers, love spaniels, and love short hair pointers, like just hunting dogs in general. And so it's really awesome. Maybe one day I'd be considering getting a German short hair pointer and a Boykin. But anyways, I just adore this Facebook group and really think it's funny because you get to see the daily life and the goofs of a Boykin and just the reaffirming the fact that we don't deserve dogs. Dogs are incredible creatures, and they just put a smile on so many people's faces and give us kind of a reason to live sometimes. But dogs are incredible. And one of the things that I saw in this group a couple weeks ago or last week was a new owner of a Boykin Spaniel. So this person had adopted a puppy from a litter of Boykin Spaniels and was trying to decide on names for this said puppy. And so in my head, I always think of, what is the dog like? What is the breed like? What is, its plan in life? Like, are you going to train it to be a hunting dog? Is it just going to be a house dog? Is it going to be, what is it going to be? And so you kind of put this little bit of forethought into it, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't down the road. Some dogs are set out from the get-go to be a hunting dog. Some dogs are, rescue dogs. Some dogs are special needs dogs. Anything and everything. Dogs are incredible. They do all kinds of jobs. Drug dogs, they do an immense amount of jobs. And so you can kind of get that dog's name into its said niche of work if it's going to be working. And so Boykins to me have a hunting heritage and a hunting background. And so, I kind of think immediately when I think of a Boykin, I think of hunting names. Like, for instance, maybe a Boykin named Willow or Sage or, Aspen or, even some of the firearm names like Benelli or, Remington or Oakley or something that kind of fits that vibe of a hunting dog. And so I was kind of coming up with names just for fun and just to think of a few of them. And then after I got doing that, I commented those names and then went back to look at the other comments. And several people were not in the same mindset that I was. Several people were thinking of things very much more general names. Our current Cocker Spaniel, her name is Daisy, and there was a lot of names in there. Daisy was actually named after the Daisy Red Ryder BB gun, which is a hunting dog name, I consider, if you put that origination behind it. But I thought that was a really cool name, and going into it, Daisy is kind of more of a general name, but you could have something like Shelby or Jessica, or you could have more personality names, like more people-centric names, Rebecca or Cynthia or something like that. And I saw a comedian, I believe it was Christina P. and Tom Segura on their Your Mom's House podcast talking about this the other day. The fact that it would be really funny to have dogs that have very general human names. And I thought that would be hilarious because, you would be walking the dog and you would be screaming at it at the park like, come back, Bob, come back, Charlie, come back, Daniel, or come back, Susan, come back, Carol, come here, Bethel, come here, Karen, and so these names were cracking me up, and it kind of made me think that a lot of these comments were off. And so I was trying to look at these comments in this Facebook post, and I was really confused by them. And then I realized what was going on. I realized that all of these people, and there was not a comment in here that told me this, but I realized that people name dogs similarly to the way that a stage name is curated for a stripper. And so this was hilarious to me, and I thought that stripper names are very relevant to dog names. And then I realized that my own dog has a stripper name, Daisy, like Daisy Red Ryder BB gun, the dog name. But you could also say, welcome to the stage, here comes Daisy, and like some ridiculous names even though those stage names are not the same, or even, Sapphire, or Opal, or something like that, a name that is related to an attribute of that stripper could also be related to an attribute of a dog. And so this is a very interesting name to me. I don't know. We had a Cocker Spaniel earlier, before Daisy in my life, and her name was Poppin, named after Mary Poppins, and that's not very much of a stripper name. Maybe it is. Maybe she's popping it, but maybe not. And she had this marking on her back named Tulip, and we always said that we should have named her Tulip. And that would have been a really funny stripper name. Welcome to the stage, Tulip. She's gonna sprout and grow. That would just be something very ridiculous, and I thought that was really funny. So maybe look at that. Yeah, if there's maybe look at the similarity between names of certain animals or certain jobs, or I would consider humans, we're mammals and we're animals in this world too, I guess. But consider names and how they're constructed and how they're thought of in different ways. You got several babies' names are a huge deal. Literally giving somebody a legal name at birth is a huge deal. Stage names are really interesting. Dogs' names are really interesting. Or any pet's name. Names of viruses, or names of scientific findings, or names of national parks. Denali National Park is a park that I want to go to eventually, and I just think that Denali, that word, that name, that noise that comes from our mouth is just super interesting. Why would somebody name it Denali? How did they get Denali? How did you get your name? Maybe it's a heritage thing, thinking of how we name dogs. Or how I name dogs. Maybe it's a working factor thing. But that was just really funny to me. And, and so that was dogs' names related to stripper names. And that was a really funny introspection that I had the other day. But anyways, another thing that I was in a meeting this past week, and we were just talking about life and just enjoying each other's company towards the end, and I realized that one of our counterparts in the meeting had a substantial amount of shoulder hair, and this shoulder hair was quite lush and quite thick and quite dark in color, and it was very interesting to me. I have one shoulder hair, singular hair on my shoulder, and I'm waiting for the day that it sprouts and just plumes all over my body, as my Italian grandpa has, but my German grandpa did not have shoulder hair, so I'm hoping that I lean that direction, but we'll see. Shoulder hair is something that I thought was really funny. Just having it is really kind of awkward. Wearing tank tops is really funny. If you have a lot of shoulder hair, it's just a lot of hair. And there's nothing wrong about it or bad about it. It's just is who you are and where you've come from. But shoulder hair was super. It's just a really funny thing. Why was it there? Maybe you have a lot of shoulder hair because you have grown in a family or in a calling that or in a heritage that maybe it has people that have a ton of shoulder hair because they were in colder places or Arctic places, or maybe that hair was a part of their lineage because it protected their body from something. Is what it is. I think it's hilarious now because we still have it, and it's something that is quite glaring and quite obvious. Is shoulder hair, and it cracks me up because again, mentioning Tom Segura and Christina P on their Your Mom House Studios. Within Your Mom's House, there is a character named Josh Potter, a fellow comedian of theirs. And Josh Potter has very lavish shoulder hair. And his shoulder hair has become a joke. And he's since created a Cameo. Cameo is a account for celebrities where you can pay celebrities to send video messages to you, maybe for a birthday or maybe for a celebration. You can get, said celebrity to tell your friend happy birthday for $20 or something like that. And it's a really cool gift. But Josh Potter has turned his shoulder hair Cameo into a shoulder hair sex work Cameo page where people request birthday announcements and things like that, but they say, do your worst to my friend and show us your shoulder hair. It's quite hilarious. He puts like syrup in it and some disgusting things in there that just make it really gross. And it's all in fun. It's all a joke, but there's definitely got to be people out there that have that kink, that have that addiction to shoulder hair. So I just thought shoulder hair was really funny. I don't know why we still have it. We live in apartments, we live in homes, we live in shelters now. We're not out in the wild and tents and things like that anymore. And so maybe it's just a genetic heritage thing. That's most likely what it is, but maybe it's not. At this point, it just cracks me up that shoulder hair is still around and that people don't shave it. Like, it's really disgusting. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to have. It just is kind of awkward when your whole arm is covered. You just look like Bigfoot walking around. But if you have shoulder hair, not hating on you, not saying that it's wrong to have it or anything like that, but I just think it's one of those things that I was thinking about that's pretty glaring to me that I notice is when people have shoulder hair, because it makes their shirt like stand off of their skin and you notice it. It just makes their like shoulder look lumpier, I guess. Very interesting thing though is shoulder hair. Another thing I've been thinking about is how to do segments within this podcast. Chop this podcast up and give you segments of things that I've been thinking about, or ideas that would kind of narrow down how I'm thinking and whatnot. And a really popular one that a lot of people talk about is internet searches, and so I thought I'd run with that idea and look at internet searches. Whether it's hot girls on the internet or something like that. It's probably a lot of my searches. But on the flip side of things, and you can't say you haven't searched for some of that. A lot of you out there have. But a lot of my searches lately have been wrapped around bow hunting and backcountry bow hunting and elk hunting, because we're going on this elk trip. Another set of searches has been based around Texas land management and how to manage wildlife in Texas, and what involves land ownership in Texas, because we may be venturing out onto some land in Texas here for the long term here pretty soon. And the segment idea was internet searches. And so one of the things that I realized I was searching this past week was that cracked me up was, I'm a big fan of comedy, and comedy is is getting a lot of heat right now for potential for like criminal actions, including pedophilia and stuff like that, for alleged Crystalia. And so that kind of cracked me up. But you can search a list of pedophiles in your area. And I was thinking, what other kind of lists of people are there in my area? What other things can you see? And so you can actually see, relating to the land stuff I've been looking at, you can look at land ownership. There's several apps that display tax rolls. You can see the land ownership of several people in your area and several people around you, and see who owns what land, how large the land is, maybe when they purchase it and things like that. But that was really interesting. And then I got into the depths of it. I always get into the depths of something in internet searches. If you look at my YouTube history, it gets dark real quick in my suggested searches, but and it gets pretty crazy real quick. But one of the things in my internet searches that I found out that you can actually search for and see is a court of, I guess it's an association, a court, a league, a group of people that claim that they are a court of vampires in your area. Living in Austin and in Central Texas, I think that's freaking hilarious, that there is a court of Austin vampires and people that claim they're vampires. If you're a vampire listening, don't come after me. I don't want to be a vampire. But I think that that's really funny. And they have Instagram pages and they have Facebook groups. And you can go find out if your neighbor is a vampire because there's a good chance they might be. And so that was something that was really, really funny to me, is there is a court of vampires in your area and they meet and they do things together. Whether or not they're legit vampires or whatever, you take that as you will. But I just thought that it was really funny that I could search online to find vampires in my area, and you can, and it's another group of people that have surfaced themselves, quite literally, risen from the dead, if you will, and have become public-facing vampires. And so, yeah, we will expand on this segment here in coming weeks and see what happens with it and see if it keeps running or not. But welcome to the internet searches section. This week we have a court of vampires, which is pretty interesting. So that kind of concludes all of my thoughts this week. Just a quick recap: names and their similarity in dogs to strippers, shoulder hair, including shoulder hair pornography, and segment idea of internet searches and the fact that you can find vampires in your area via the vampire court. And so go look that up. Go think about some different things. Go think about weird, crazy stuff in life and get creative. Open your mind up a little bit to the world around you, and don't get tunnel vision on work or on a relationship or anything like that. Open your mind up and let it get creative and think about things differently, folks. If we don't, we'll never change, and if we never change, we'll never get better. And so that's the only thing we can do, is just to keep on thinking. So the other day I was thinking, and those are all the things I was thinking about. So thank you so much for listening again. Thank you so much. This is the third episode. And I really appreciate it, folks. I hope you have a fantastic week. Feel free to reach out to me and contact me if you like, and comment on what I'm thinking about, or how I'm thinking about it, or even tell me how to think about this podcast better. So thank you so much, folks, for listening, and I will see you next week.